Kevin Hart knew he was making a mistake the moment he stepped into Snoop Dogg's house. But at the time, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like an experience, a legendary moment that he could look back on and laugh about. He was hanging out with Snoop Dogg, the undisputed king of smoke, the man who had turned it into an art form. How could he say no? He had told himself it was just going to be a little fun, a quick session, nothing too crazy. But as he would later realize, when you're with Snoop, there's no such thing as just a little. It started like any other casual hangout. Snoop greeted him with his signature laid-back vibe, and before Hart could even get comfortable, Snoop had already handed him something to smoke. Kevin wasn't a stranger to the effects. He had tried it before, but he had always been cautious. His father's history had taught him to stay in control, to know his limits. But this was different. This wasn't just anyone handing him a smoke. It was Snoop Dogg, the living legend, the man whose name was practically synonymous with the act itself. How could he turn down an opportunity like this? He took a hit, then another, and before he knew it, hours had passed. They weren't just getting high. They were ascending to levels he didn't even know existed. The room seemed to move in slow motion. Kevin started questioning reality itself. At one point, he found himself arguing with himself. His thoughts had split into two different voices, each with its own personality. One was telling him to stop, to tap out while he still could. The other was telling him to keep going, to see just how far this journey would take him. He glanced over at Snoop, expecting to see someone just as dazed as he was. But Snoop was unfazed. He was in his element, rolling and lighting up as if they had just started. It was at that moment that Kevin realized something terrifying. There was no end game. This wasn't a ride that eventually stopped. Snoop wasn't looking for a destination. This was the journey. Kevin had entered a realm where time no longer existed, and reality was just a suggestion. The next few hours were a blur. At some point, he remembered asking Snoop, "Where's the end game, bro? How high can we get from here?" But there was no answer, only laughter. A deep, amused chuckle that seemed to echo in his mind long after it had ended. When he finally left Snoop's house, he thought the experience was over. But he was wrong. The high didn't end. Days passed, and he was still feeling it. A week went by. Then another. He wasn't just high. He was stuck in it. 3 weeks of floating through life, questioning everything, wondering if he had permanently altered his mind. It was a lesson he would never forget. Since that day, Kevin has made one thing clear. He doesn't go to Snoop Dogg's house anymore. Not because he doesn't love the guy, but because he respects the power of what happened that night. Snoop is a god when it comes to smoke, and no one comes close to matching his level. If you step into his world, you better be ready, because once you do, there's no turning back. I've crafted a compelling and engaging article based on Kevin Hart's wild experience with Snoop Dogg. Let me know if you'd like any tweaks or additions.